How's it going, YouTube? Let's get changed and do some shit. Oh yeah. Right, today we're going to fit a homemade return fuel rail. We'll have a closer look at that later. What we'll do is we'll get mine off first and we'll have a look at them both on the bench. I'll show you how to make one of these. It's easy. To remove the fuel rail, we've got 2 bolts, there and there, and the hardest bit is getting your original fuel line off of the stock rail. It's got a proper fuel clip on it and you need a special tool to get it off. I didn't have a special tool to get mine off and I almost cried. So let's get this rail off. We'll get him on the bench and have a look. So here we are at the bench. You'll notice the injectors come out with the rail. You have to be careful when you take those out because there's a little washer on the bottom as well. Watch you don't lose that. What you find is when you put them back in, you're probably easier putting the injectors in first and then fitting the rail onto the top of the injectors. It seems to go together a bit easier. Before we have a look at the rail, I want to show you these injectors. This is a really cheap way of having some high flow injectors. These are actually Vauxhall VXR injectors. I stole this idea off of Stuart. There's a photo of him. What you need to do though, if I can get this to focus, is you need to trim the tops down because they're too fat to fit in. If you trim the tops down, leave the gap at the top and then just trim this down so it fits inside the hole. These are 475cc injectors. These can be bought off of eBay about £100 for 4, so that's a really cheap way. They do have the Bosch plug, so you need to change the plug. So I'll remove these injectors and then we'll have a look at these rails. Right, so there we are both together. As you can see with the new one, I cut this off and then on either end fitted some steel AN6 fittings. They're just welded on. Same on the other end. There's a steel AN6 fitting welded on there and then it's drilled through into the end of the rail. The important bit is it's got to be a steel fitting because the AN6 normally like this are aluminium. So if you get a steel one, you can weld them on, drill through, and then you have a return rail. I just sprayed this afterwards with some zinc galvanizing spray, and there we have it, a return rail and cheap injectors. So what we'll have a look at the engine and see what we've got to do. Right, so that's how it's going to fit when we've got the injectors in. The feed is coming in there from the tank. What it does is I've got a Walbro 255 litre pump. It goes from that to a Cytec non-return valve, and then from the non-return valve up to this rail. I fitted a non-return valve because the Walbro pumps don't come with a non-return fitted into them, so all the fuel will drain back once they're turned off. At the other end, we're coming out of this fitting, and I've fitted an adapter on here with a 1/8 NPT thread, so I can fit the gauge on. So we're coming out of the rail, straight into this fitting here, into the reg, out of the bottom of the reg, and back to the tank. I need to change these plugs. I've got some proper ones. These was a bit of a bodge at the beginning, but I've got some proper ones, but I've left them at home. So what I'll do is I'll change these later. But for now, that'll do. Let's see if we can get this done. Okay, there we have it on. I've plugged everything in and I've put that bit of silicone pipe back in between the throttle body and the charge cooler, just so I can test everything, make sure it's working, because I want to test this, make sure there's no leaks. I want to set up the pressure on this and just generally make sure everything's working. I'm actually going to tidy it up a little bit and leave it like this because I need the car this weekend. So I'm going to give it a play. I'm going to set up this fuel. When you're setting up the fuel pressure on these, you need to do it with this not connected. You don't want any vacuum on it, because when you've got vacuum on it, it reduces the pressure. So do it with it off, block that over, and then set the pressure that you want. So I'll do that now. I'll see if it leaks and I'll be back in a minute. There it is, set up, running. We've got no leaks. Good to go. So, seems everything works okay. A little bit shocked, because normally everything I do goes wrong the first time. But now we have a fully operational, proper fuel return system. I'm quite impressed with myself, actually. And that doesn't happen very often. So, for now, I'm going to leave that as it is. Well, not as it is. I'm going to tidy it up, put the brace and everything back on, because I've got a show this weekend. So, I'll take my camera and we'll video that as well. But, we'll be back soon with some more mods on the MR2, because there I've got another charge cooler. I'm just waiting for some more fittings and then we'll have a play with that, see if we can get that on. I'm also going to fit a fan to the heat exchanger at the front for the charge cooler, and I've got a digital temperature control as well. So it's all go, it's all go. So don't forget to subscribe and we'll see you next time.